He leads us all the way, playing proper football, the Chef United way. Ale, ale, ale. Ale, ale, ale. Ale, ale, ale.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Chef United Way. I am absolutely buzzing that we're back for another live video. It's about Hamza Choudhury. Obviously, we finally signed him. Deal done. Hal's obviously done a couple of videos about Hamza Choudhury in recent times, so it's great that we finally got this over the line. We normally go live very, very quickly on these ones, so we're here almost 24 hours after he's signed. His signature's dried, and Ole, it's the latest one. It's the one that is taking us the longest to get out into it, so people can probably cut us a little bit of slack.
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's fine. You know, within 24 hours, bearing in mind how long it took United to get this one announced, I'm sure that we're allowed to have 24 hours of respite. You know, this is a transfer that was rumoured before January even started. Everyone was starting to talk about Hamza Choudhury. I love him. I think he's a fantastic player. I think it was 6 years ago that I first said, I love Hamza Choudhury. I think he's class. And yeah, so it's been a long time coming for me. So I think we can get away with 24 hours, Nick.
Yeah, I think you're right. You might not. Let me put this right. You're one of the only people that seem to like him. Let's put it that way. When we're looking at, you know, fans that he's actually played for. So we'll get onto that in a little bit. We've also got a lovely little video from Locks, who joined us on the Tom Cannon live stream. He couldn't make it tonight because he's talking about their incredible victory. Was it away at Tottenham?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it's a great result.
It's something that we nearly did as well last season. However bad we were, we nearly beat Tottenham away, but that was when Tottenham were a little bit better than right now. But we'll get on to Locks in a few moments. Like I said, Hal's spoken about Hamza Choudhury a few times, so if you want to go back and watch those and get a little bit more information about the good man, there's Hurry Hamza that Hal did in his Transfer Roundup 2 video. And the reason why we haven't done many of these Transfer Roundup videos, Hal did loads in the summer, because we were linked with every Tom, Dick and Harry. We don't seem to be linked with too many people at the moment, Ollie, do we? The players that we're linked with, we're signing.
100%, you should have said Tom, Dick and Hamza. I can't believe that you didn't really feel as though you missed the opportunity. But it's fine. We'll move on.
Gone.
We'll keep going. Yeah, it does. It feels like a weird one, I think, this January, where it feels like the same names come up time and again. And it does feel like, you know, Ben Brereton Diaz, Hamza Choudhury, these are names that we've known now for 3-4 weeks. And so the fact that they're coming through the door, you know, you can't just keep talking about the same ones over and over again. You've got to wait for United to do the business, to get those players in, and to really make sure that we do get the right squad together, because that's been really key. We've seen through January how much of a gap we've got in terms of that starting, well, not the starting 11, but those backups. You know, we've seen the sort of depth to the squad really starting to be exposed, as really starting to struggle. So it's great to get these through the door. But yeah, it does feel like it's been a bit of a weird one where lots of names kind of get mentioned, but there's only been a few sort of concrete rumours, and they all seem to be coming in the door.
Yeah, they do. And Chris Wilder did actually say that. He said he was confident, before we'd signed anyone, he was confident that we could get all our kind of first targets. And it seems like that's what we've done. The other one that Hal did was Hamza Imminent, which went out a few days ago. I think it was Saturday. We uploaded that one, so go back and check that one out if you wish to do so. But you've already kind of touched on it a little bit, Ole. It's not just Hal that's spoken about Hamza quite a lot. Within the last 6 months, you know, were waxing lyrical about him in the summer. So what exactly caught your eye about Hamza Choudhury's play? Because we haven't seen him at Bramall Lane too much. We haven't played against him too much. So why would you want us to sign Hamza Choudhury so much?
Yeah, I've always been a huge fan of him. I think it does hark back to that day, Premier League 2019, newly promoted Sheffield United go to, well, Leicester come to visit newly promoted Sheffield United. Obviously, Leicester at that time, much better than they are right now. They were riding high towards the top of the Premier League. And Hamza Choudhury dominated that game of football. He United were the best that we've ever been in my life. And yet this central midfielder, really young player at the time, had been playing for England's unders sort of. So you knew of him. I think he might have even captained them at some point. And so it was a player that you knew of, but that felt like a real coming of age moment. I'd seen him dominate a Premier League game. Now, his career has not kicked on the way I've expected since then, because I thought from that point onwards, he would just be on a trajectory to the moon and would be a consistent Premier League starter now. So I think where he's struggling is what he's really strong at, and where his play really tends to stand out is his tackling ability. He seems like a player who loves to get in. He loves to win the ball back. He's a defensive sort of cover midfielder. So he's often going to be doing all of that dirty work defensively to make sure that nobody's breaking on you. I think back to the Hull goals that were scored last week. And I think that first goal, it's not happening. Hamza Choudhury is stopping that goal through his energy, through his press to get back, but his commitment to make sure that his man's not able to run past him quite as easily as we saw in that scenario. So I think he's got a very specific use. The reason he's not kicked on is that there are doubts about his ability to recycle the ball when he's won it. So he's a brilliant tackler, fantastic for sort of winning the ball back deep in his own half, but then it stops. We struggle. He's not able to drive forward in terms of progressing the ball, in terms of playing out from defence. So I think that's what's really held him back. That's what United are going to need to develop with him. Now, for me, the way that he fits perfectly in this United team, the reason I was very excited for it in the summer is that I thought he could do the role that Vinicius has been playing. I thought it could be that physical, energetic defensive midfielder who's covering for the right back or the left back as they get forward, who's sitting in that role and always being there to win the ball back. He could then lay it off to Gus Harmer, who will do something special. So it's an interesting one. I really do think that could work. I just think he probably does still need to develop on the ball. But for me, he's a player I'd love us to have. I'm so happy we've got him through the door.
Yeah, I was just laughing to myself at Hal's comment here. And we will get into talking a little bit more about Hal, which he will absolutely love. He will lap that up as much as possible. So I'm going to do my little Hal monologue. I'm going to try and do it as well as what Hal does, but I don't think that's going to be the case. So are you ready for this? Hamza is 27 years old, will be 28 on the 1st of October. If he's lucky, he'll love that. Hal will love that one. 27 means that he's got loads left in the tank. So we're not just bringing a player in to pick up the pension. That's not what we're doing here. Like 27 years old for a Chris Wilder player is actually, for me, really good because in the past, we've been picking up players at 30 and above. So the fact that we're bringing in Broughton Diaz, I believe, is around that sort of 27 mark. Hamza Choudhury is. Obviously, we've got lots of younger players. Cannon that we brought in recently is a lot younger than that. We had a really, really young average squad age as well. So that's really, really positive because that's not what Chris Wilder used to like in a footballer. So it's nice to see that 27 years old is not old for a footballer. So it's a loan until the end of the season. And by the sounds of it, there's an option to buy rather than an obligation, which is always good. Saying that, I think we had an obligation to buy Rida Kadra, and that never happened. That was not going to happen, was it? I was really excited for Rida Kadra as well. Don't know about anybody else. But I was really, really, did not expect that to go how it did. But it protects the club. It's a really good deal. It protects the club. Obviously, we're bringing in a player of his caliber if he doesn't play well, Ollie, it's all down to you, isn't it? You're going to get the blame for this because of how much you've talked him up. By the looks of it, FOTMob, I've just looked on there and the valuation is 4.3 million, which, you can't always go on these websites. But I think if we do get promoted, which will be whether we buy him or not, I'm sure it'll probably go up to 6 or 7 million. I don't know what you think about that, Ollie. How much do you think would it be to sign someone like Hamza Choudhury if he has a really good rest of the season?
Yeah, I think it's really dependent on how he does and how he's going to perform in this Sheffield United team. I think right now his stock's probably quite low. He's not being able to get into the Leicester team. He's on the outs there. They're not looking to him as the future anymore. So it's a good opportunity to get him while his value is relatively low. If we've got an option, it might be that option already includes an agreed fee. So that kind of thing could make a really nice deal for United. I think that sort of around the £4-5 million mark feels like a really sensible place to try and pitch this because he's somebody who will come in, who I think will do a really effective job, will be really effective at the role that United want to use him in. But we know there's a limitation on how far he's going to be able to take that. So you're not going to spend your big 10 million plus because it's just not that kind of transfer. It's not what we're trying to do here. I think See, I disagree a little bit with one of the things you said there, because I think we might be more likely to make this permanent if we don't get promoted. Excuse me, I've got a terrible cough, but I think if we don't get promoted, it's more likely that Vinny Souza leaves the club. If we're in the Premier League this time next season, Vinny Souza will still be playing for Sheffield United. And, you know, with the recovery and the way that he's rebuilt his career with the club, I think we'd all love to see that happen. I think as well, though, there's a recognition that he's been dominating the Championship. He's been fantastic at this level. And so I find it quite likely that if United aren't to be promoted this season, it may be that he moves on to pastures new. There's already been some rumours about clubs in Brazil. I think AC Milan were rumoured in the summer. It just seems like he likely will be leaving the club, at which point Choudhury would be the ready-made replacement. He'd be coming in to take Souza's role in the squad, his role in the team, and to sort of build a little bit differently. So I think it's quite a likely one that we take up that option if we aren't promoted. If we do get promoted, I wonder if we might be looking for a little bit better in terms of that midfield reinforcement.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. It really does. I think it's just usually when you bring in a player with an obligation or not, you are normally buying that player when you go up. That's the condition. But obviously, in this sense, I think Vinny Souza's stock is a lot higher than Hamza Choudhury's. But we'll carry on talking about Hamza and not Vinny. He's 5'10", which is a little bit too tall for a man, depending on who you ask. Yes, I'm with you. He's not played a lot of football recently, so it might take him a little bit longer to get up to speed, like Brereton Diaz, unlike Tom Cannon, who's obviously, we were talking about Hamza being at kind of like the bottom end of his valuation at the moment, which is probably a good idea to try and pick him up early. Cannon was the complete opposite. He's at the highest peak of what you're going to pay for someone like him at the moment until he scores more goals and scores goals in the Premier League as well. It's only a small sample size from the season, but in the Championship last season, he started 15 games out of 34, and he achieved a rating of 6.9, which is probably slightly above average, I would say. But saying that, if it's in a Leicester team that's won the division, you would think that he would have it'd be easier to play in a team that's at the top of the division, you would think. Last season, he achieved 92.1% pass accuracy, which sounds incredible, to be honest. I've seen a lot of these stats of his, and they're really, really low. 72.7% tackle accuracy, 63.6% aerial duels won, 1 assist, but he's not known for being somebody that's going to set up goals. He's obviously the one that wins the ball back and gives it to the more capable players. So what will we expect from Hamza? I would say interceptions, a tough tackler, someone that will keep his position whilst getting around the pitch. Is very, very energetic. Only 5 yellow cards from 34 games last season. I know he started 15 of those, so lots of those were off the bench. But only 5 yellow cards. That's really good. He's probably going to double that as soon as he comes to United with how many bookings that we get. So that to me says that he's not necessarily a dirty player. That's so yeah. Anyway, let's kind of move on, because I want to bring Lox's video on screen in a second. But we tried this off air and it played straight away. So I'm going to quickly upload it now, and it'll probably play straight away. So this is Lox, who is a Leicester City fan that we had on the channel to talk about Tom Cannon, obviously whilst at Leicester. He's obviously going to be talking about Hamza Choudhury here, and spoiler alert, in the Cannon video, he literally said, you don't want Hamza Choudhury. So let's see what he's got to say, if he's got to say anything positive. So here we go.
Lox here. Hope you're doing well. It appears Leicester City have become the feeder club of Sheffield United. Hopefully Hamza Choudhury's debut goes a lot better than Tom Cannon's did. Sorry for the dig. Now, I'll tell you what, let's get this on red for the Blades. There we go. So Hamza Choudhury, you know what you're going to get with him. Defensively, aggressive, honestly, one of the best at the Leicester City with regards to winning the ball back, high press, running around like an absolute madman for 90 minutes. He didn't get too many 90 minutes at Leicester, but you know what I mean. I do have a few doubts, really, about him joining Sheffield United. I actually think Souza, that you've got, is better than Hamza Choudhury. But there's clearly a reason Chris Wilder wants him, so fair enough. It is only a loan with option to buy. So whether you make that permanently at the end of the season or not, I'm not sure you will if you go up, to be honest with you. Maybe if you stay down, you can do a lot better. Yeah, like I said, you know what you're going to get with him. Defensively, he is strong. His ability to win the ball back, his ability to put in a crunching challenge, and his ability to get a yellow card and injure someone is up there with the very, very best. On the ball, progressively, do not go through Hamza Choudhury. He recently played for Leicester against Newcastle. It was a nightmare, giving the ball away. Progressive passes, progressive carries, no good at all, in my opinion. He is good for winning the ball back, and that is it. I've seen his passing stats look good. A lot of that will be sideways and backwards, I'm sure. Enzo Maresca trusted him to fill a gap when needed for rotation reasons last season in the Championship. So again, for the Championship, a good player. Very good? I don't think so, unfortunately. So I'm sure he improves your overall squad. Does he improve your first team? For me, it's a no. Sorry, I can't be more praising of Hamza Choudhury and get you excited. Tom Cannon is the much better signing, but it's like I said, it's a loan, so risk-free. Hope that helps. Hope you're doing well. Keep smashing it, guys. We'll see you very soon. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much for that, Locks. So, Ole, does this excite you after listening to Locks?
I mean, I think Locks is sort of backed up there what I was thinking anyway about this transfer, but I think there's a really underrated skill in there. It's something that fans don't buy into. You know, United have had it similar in the past with players like Nick Montgomery, with Michael Doyle. These are players who do the workman really hard job. They carry the water, they win the ball, they stop the opposition, they protect your defense, they stop the counter-attack when they need to, they stick the foot in, do all the dirty work, but never get to do the exciting stuff. They're not driving you forward. They're not scoring your goals. They're not creating your goals. They're not getting the ball and running through midfield. And so I think fans always take a slightly negative view of that skill set, of that way of playing the game. And so I think what Locks has said there is that, you know, he backed up that he's going to be one of the best tacklers that Leicester have got. He's one of their best players in terms of the way that they win the ball back. Yes, there's limitations that are concerning and a little bit worrying in terms of, is he what United need, particularly in games like Friday where, you know, I spoke about we probably don't concede the goals we conceded if he's playing, but he also doesn't help us break down that low block. He's not going to be the player who's unlocking Hull's defence and getting us that goal. It's very much he's going to have a job to do in this squad, going to have a job to do in the team, and that's going to be defensive first, sitting in to make sure that the more creative players can flourish, and he's the cover, the one that's bringing them back. And I think that's what United need. I think it's something we've been missing for a few years. So I'm still, yes, excited about this. And I think Alessandro, I'm sure you'll be about to pull his comment up on screen. And Alessandro makes a fantastic point. Not looking good against those players of that caliber. It's not exactly a disaster, is it? I mean, it's a hell of a challenge.
Yeah. So I'm going to temper your positivity. And I don't want this to be all negative, Ollie. I don't want it to be all negative. But we've got to put it out on the table, let the fans know exactly what other fans are saying. And I'm going to read some comments from Roy's View from royviewfrom.com for those who don't know. Everybody should know, if you're a Sheffield United fan, you should read Roy's View from, or at least give him a follow on Twitter because he posts everything on there. So I'm going to read out some comments about Hamza Choudhury from Leicester fans and then from Watford fans too. So here we go. Brace yourself, ladies and gents. He's been here too long now and needs to move on, if only for his career. A pretty tame one to start, I think, Ollie. That's not an eye-watering comment. He's a bit rubbish and seems like a bit of a bad egg as well. No idea why we've given him contract extensions. He's the very epitome of what's wrong with this squad and, in a bigger sense, this club. Lacks class on the pitch and off it. I think a lot of these comments are aimed at a certain event that happened, certain incident that happened that we're probably not going to talk about because it's in the past, and we don't want to talk about things like that on the channel. So I think people have popped it in the comments a little bit. So I'm not going to go into that too much. He's done some pretty questionable things and has a pretty limited football ability for this level. That's Premier League level. Don't worry too much, Blades fans. He's a training ground player, not good enough for the Premier League, and can do a job at Championship level. But he's realistically, he'd excel in League One. That's why I've put it in here. In League One, Ole, League One. I think that's going a little bit too far. What do you think?
I mean, that's not dissimilar to the things I was saying about Vinny Souza this time last year. So, let's not. You're having a bad season. You get battered every week. You're feeling that pain of the Premier League. I said very similar statements. In fact, you can go back and check the channel of me slagging Vinny Souza off. And, that step down makes a huge difference. And the step up also makes a huge difference. You've also got his versatility that, that I think adds so much. Now, a lot of those comments you said there, they refer to sort of off-field antics or an event that's taken place. All that we can know about that is Chris Wilder knows this player. They were together at Watford. He managed him and he played him week in, week out while they were together at Watford. Wilder has made a huge point about his entire United rebuild being about getting the right characters, the right lads, the right group of players together. And he obviously thinks that Hamza is going to fit into that category. He thinks that Hamza is going to be one of these players who fits with our culture, fits with our squad, and he believes in him. So if Wilder's going to make that commitment to using him, bringing him in, and trusting him, then I think we have to give him the benefit of the doubt as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you keep kind of stepping on some of the questions that I'm going to ask. So we'll move on. Very, very, very quickly. Callum as putting on, I'm putting on screen right now, sort of what I'm alluding to. But I'll just finish the last couple. He is our today's Robbie Savage, limited in technical aspects and needs to be used in the way that suits his attributes. If he was told to man mark X player, I'd imagine he'd come away man of the match. Or if you told him to cover the defense, chopping in tackles, he'll have a great game. And the last one is, how are we losing our best right back? Now, I don't know whether that is a tongue-in-cheek, jokey comment, but that just kind of outlines the fact that he's versatile. He can play defensive midfield. He can play up front. No, I'm joking. He can't play up front. He can play defensive midfield. He can play right back. And I've heard he's played centre back a few times too. We know that Vinny Souza has played centre back a couple of times too. He's filled in at centre back for the Blaze just to help out. But it looks like they are very similar players, but Vinny Souza's just got a little bit more passing ability and dribbling ability. And Hamza's definitely one of those defensive destroyers. Win the ball, pass it off. Before we go into talking about his versatility, I'll just finish off the comments section. And this is Watford fans. And this, remember, is in the Championship. Choudhury in a Wilder midfield is a disaster. He runs about a lot, but isn't very good at all. He's a headless chicken. If he had a short back and sides, he'd be playing League One football. Another one mentioning League One football, Ollie. He has virtually no footballing ability, complete lack of awareness as to what's happening around him when he's on the ball, no scanning at all. And then I've got a few nice comments just to finish it off. A very good ball winner at this level, but not good enough for the Prem, and with very little else. You'd think he'd be best in the Championship team, who accept they won't have much of the ball, which I actually think when we have less of the ball, we are better, because I think we struggle to break down teams at times because we don't have, I would say, as many technical players as the likes of Leeds and maybe even Burnley to a certain extent. Even though they're a very good defensive side, they're also a good technical side as well going forward, despite that terrible 0-0 draw last night. Good Championship player. Choudhury was a good player, committed, and had a decent pass on him. And the last one, he was not the best technically, but certainly one of the few who seemed to put the effort in most games. Having said that, he managed to give the worst performance of the season of anyone in the first half at QPR. So maybe it's worth going back and watching that one. Also, Leicester fans were talking about Bristol City away. Not sure what happened there. I'm not sure I want to know. But anyway, I'm just going to ask you a few questions in regards to those negative comments. So First of all, what do you take from that? Has anything really kind of a lot of it sounds like what you were saying already, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of it is what I expect from Hamza Choudhury, where he's at his best, what we've seen him do really well at multiple clubs. And, it comes through in all of those comments is defensively, he's going to be the player that we want him to be, that I'm expecting him to be. I think what is going to have to be notable is tempering how we use him, tempering what we expect from him with the ball at his feet, knowing that he's not going to drive us forward, knowing that his primary job is going to be get it, pass it on to somebody who is going to drive us forward. I think how that pairing works in the centre of our midfield is going to be crucial as well. Now we've got a left winger in the club in Ben Brereton Diaz. I expect Brereton Diaz will start on the left wing most games. That, to me, frees up Gustavo Harmer to play in central midfield. Now, I'd prefer him to be playing next to Vinny Souza, but it seems like he's exactly the kind of partner that Choudhury would need. Somebody who can stand 12 feet away from him, receive a pass, and then he can be the one who pings it, drives you forward, does all that creativity, and he doesn't have to worry as much about his defensive responsibilities, about his duty, because Hamza's always going to sort of cover that behind him. Now, it's concerning that obviously people have mentioned League One, that people have started to talk about him maybe not being a top end of the Championship. But I think we've got to wait and see how he fits our system because, like I say, I think with the right partner, I could see him being a fantastic player at this level. And I really do think he's got it in him to be a really top Championship player.
So let's go back to the utility question. Where do you see him playing? Obviously, his main position is central midfield, defensive midfield, whatever you want to call it. He can play right back. He can play centre back. Hal mentioned in the comments before, I'll pop it up on screen right now, John Joe Kenny deal is off, lads. Hertha want too much money. I heard it from my Hertha mate earlier this evening, but now Danny Hall is reporting on it. I wonder whether we've looked at John Joe Kenny and we think that maybe we need another centre-back, which I think everybody in the comments is saying that's what we need, that's what we need. Hamza can obviously fill in at right-back. Leicester fans, whether he was joking or not, said he's their best right-back. Again, tongue-in-cheek, maybe, but he can certainly play there. And if he can get up and down, and I'm going to say a central midfielder, however limited they are at playing football, will probably be better at right-back, playing out from right back than someone like Alfie Gilchrist. At the end of the day, Chris Basham, lots of people thought Chris Basham was a rubbish footballer, and they ended up being the greatest right centre back of all time. So it happens like that sometimes. So we might see Choudhury playing a lot at right back. What do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked to see him playing right back fairly regularly, to be honest. I think, particularly with the news that John Joe Kenny deal is off, I think whenever Femi Siriki's fit, he should be the first choice. He's been outstanding. He's earned his spot in the team. He's creative and he's sort of on the front foot. And I think he's the kind of right back that we've been wanting to play a lot this season. So I think whenever he's fit, Siriki will be that first choice. But I do think that when Siriki isn't fit and it becomes a conversation about who's going to play next, I do think that there's a real competition there between Choudhury and Gilchrist. And I really wouldn't be shocked to see Choudhury probably splitting his minutes because we're going to need to rest Vinny Souza. Vinny Souza has already pulled up with injury twice now this season. He's missed quite a few games. So we know that he's going to need a rest at some point. So I think he'll probably end up splitting minutes between, we'll see him fairly regularly at right back, but we'll also see him particularly in some of those maybe more challenging games. I'm thinking Leeds at home, Burnley away. That might be where we see Choudhury starting in that central midfield to really try and limit and disrupt the opposition's play.
My worries with him in the midfield, and I've been thinking about this driving into work this morning, consumes my full life, clearly. But in central midfield, there's no hiding place for a player that's off form, maybe not had as many minutes as what you'd have liked them to have had. Paul Coutts springs to mind. Paul Coutts, when he first came to Sheffield United, was giving the ball away right in front of the defence over and over again. He was getting caught on it lots. He obviously ended up being an icon, an absolute Blades legend. But he struggled for minutes. Oh, he gave the ball away. But he did. When he left Derby and came to the Blades on loan, he struggled. He struggled a lot. And then got better. And he had, but that comes with game time, and he got that game time at that time. that is a little bit of a worry for me. And again, who's he going to play with, do you think? Because obviously Vinny Souza, you've mentioned Vinny Souza quite a lot. Can they play together? Will he play with, if we're giving Vinny Souza a bit of a rest, will he play well with Sidney Peck? It remains to be seen. Is he going to drop Harmer in there? What do you think is going to happen?
I think it's a really difficult one to predict because obviously it depends on the different structure, how Wilder wants the team to play. I think the best partners for him, based on what we know so far and what we've heard from obviously the other fans, would be Tom Davis and Gus Harmer. I think if you're going to put somebody next to him, you've got Tom Davis, who, you know, I know some fans got frustrated sometimes with the times he lost the ball away, particularly just before he came off with his injury actually on that final game. But I really liked Tom Davis. I loved his energy, and he was always trying to drive United forward. He was the first man up in the press. He was always trying to get the ball and take United forward. And I think Choudhury would be the perfect partner for him to say, yeah, you go and do that creativity, use your energy, try and take it forward. So I think that would work. I think he'd work alongside Gus Harmer. You know, we've already talked about the way that could play out. The others, I think there's a bigger question mark over how he could play with Peck and Souza. I think his limitations on the ball might become more of a barrier alongside either of those two players when we need two people who are being progressive. We know what Vinny Souza is fantastic at, but he's driving you forward sometimes, not every time. And so I think it's really difficult to look at how they would work together. I think it's probably an either or. And I think, again, Sidney Peck, I love the lad. He's developed so much this season, but I don't think he's got the qualities that complement a player of Choudhury's ability. I think he needs somebody next to him who's a bit more dynamic, who's going to be a bit better on the ball at driving you forward as well, who we can dovetail with. So I think for Choudhury, it's probably a central midfield role with Harmer or Davis.
Absolutely. Couple more questions before we leave you. So before we go, please make sure you like the stream, everybody. Like I say, we're only going to be on for a few more minutes. Couple of questions. So firstly, is this a promotion-winning signing? And have we made promotion-winning signings this January?
No. Don't think that. Sorry, there's unbelievably blunt and negative response. No, I don't think we have. But the reason for that is that it's contextual. I think the players that we've signed are very exciting. You know, Brereton Diaz, Tom Cannon, they are two players who they get you promoted. They are everything that you want in terms of creativity, in terms of goal scoring, in terms of being able to drive United and make sure we continue on the front foot. Choudhury is the perfect backup. He covers a gap that we've got in the squad. He makes sure that we've got that extra cover that we've needed desperately for the last month that we've just not been able to get. So they're all individually doing a fantastic job to help this United squad become one that is a promotion winner. But the promotion winning signing is a centre-back. That's what Sheffield United are missing. That was, if you'd asked me on the 1st of January, you can sign one player and one player only. You've got to get a centre-back. We've got to replace Harry Souttar because United's success, the way that we've done so well so far this season, was built on the back of not conceding any goals. And when Harry Souttar plays football, Sheffield United don't concede any goals. We have the same goals conceded rate per 90 as Burnley when Harry Souttar plays football. When Harry Souttar doesn't play football, we concede 1.4 goals a game. It's just ridiculous, the gap that we have when he did and now when he doesn't play. So he's got to be replaced. That's the promotion-winning signing. All the others are fantastic to have. I'm really excited about him. But the one that wins Sheffield United promotion is the centre-back to be as dominant as Souttar was.
We might, because Hamza could be sort of like a Martin Craney signing where he fills in really well and he wins you points in that way, where if you didn't have that signing, you might have to play somebody else who's maybe not got, you know, the work rate or what have you, getting up and down and really supporting. And you know, it really could work.
Harrison Burrows is never going to have to play centre midfield again. And I think we can all thank Jesus for the fact, we should all be very grateful that Harrison Burrows will never play central midfield again, because it's just not his position. It's not suited him. And so this midfield signing should mean that we never have to be playing those kind of experiments.
No. We need to make sure we thank Jesus, though, don't we, Ollie? Make sure we thank him.
Always, at all times.
Finally, prediction time. Out of 10, how do you think he'll fare come the end of the season? Because we can always look back on this video and have a bit of a laugh. So it's a bit of fun. Out of 10, Ollie, you've been beating the drum for Hamza Choudhury to sign for Sheffield United for such a long time. What is your prediction?
6.5. So, and this is
That's
based on
such a fence-sitting rating. So
7
fence.
then. I mean, like, so where
That's
I'm coming
even
at this
more
is that
fence-sitting.
exactly where that we've just landed and the conversation we've just had is that
Yeah.
no one, I don't think anyone at the end of the season is going to sit here and say player of the year, Hamza Choudhury, 10 out of 10, no stopping it, because he's not that style of footballer. For him to be at his most effective, we'll probably go, yeah, he was all right today, 7 out of 10, because that's the kind of player he is. I think 7 out of 10 is a fantastic rate of success for that style of footballer.
And his average rating was actually 6.90, which plays into that perfectly. And it's an above average rating, which we'd be happy with. And like you say, it's the strikers, it's the attacking midfielders, it's sometimes the goalkeepers that get the big ratings because they've scored a goal, they've made a goal, a defense splitting pass, a chance created, a penalty save, what have you. You're not going to get that from, even if he puts in a challenge that stops someone from scoring a goal, he's still not going to get those dues in rating form. So,
yeah, when you're looking at it and we're looking back at the end of the season, we're not going to sit there and go, oh, 72 ball recoveries. I thought Hamza Choudhury was outstanding. It's just not the way that the average fan watches football. You don't pick up on those moments in the game. You notice the big moments. So you'll notice when he loses his tackle and gets dribbled past. You'll notice when he gives the ball away because of his limited sort of way of recycling possession. You'll notice when he passes backwards and you really wanted him to play the big one over the top for someone to chase. So you really pick out on those moments and you really do start to think about what is it that would mean he stands out. And to be honest, the best sign for United is if he doesn't stand out in this team, because it means that, as Chris has just said, we're on the front foot, we're attacking teams, we're not relying on him as much defensively, but that he is doing his job in a very tidy way. So I think for him to get that sort of 6.57 is the ideal scenario for United. I think if he gets a 6.5, Sheffield United get promoted, because you don't notice him in games because we're on the front foot, we're driving forward, and he's done his job without having to be incredible. If he's getting a 10, as Chris says, United have probably been on the back foot getting battered most weeks, and therefore we're not going to get promoted. And if he gets if we don't get promoted and everyone's looking at it and saying, yeah, he gave the ball away all the time, again, he's not going to get it. It's all about his role is to just be almost invisible in a team that's just ticking over, getting points, and he's doing the dirty work to allow everybody else to look brilliant.
Yeah, I completely agree. And hopefully all that happens and everyone's saying, why didn't we listen to Ollie at the start of the season and bring Hamza Choudhury in earlier?
Everyone should always be saying that. Why didn't we listen to Ollie more? If we did, honestly, we'd be like 12 probably.
I'm going to say you're the most self-deprecating guy, so there's no way you mean that. But yeah, you do speak a hell of a lot of sense, and that's why you're on all Gab Sutton's videos, or most of Gab Sutton's videos. So yeah. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining me, Ole. Hopefully, Hamza Choudhury has a fantastic season for the rest of the season. Hopefully, we'll be back on for a few more of these live streams when we've signed a centre back, a right back, Iheanacho. Who else? Who else are we in for?
Tommy Doyle.
Yeah, definitely can't see that happening. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Ollie, and we'll speak to you soon. Cheers.
Ole, ole, ole.